Hi, my name is Sheena Wethington, and today we are going to go over this Kentucky State Assessment Participation Options module. Kentucky provides all students access to the state assessment relative to their individual needs. This module is meant to help provide guidance to parents and guardians when discussing state assessment options for their student with a disability. By the end of this module, you will better understand what options are available for students with disabilities to participate in state assessments, what the alternate testing is for students who are unable to participate in regular state assessments, and the federal and state regulations on inclusion for students in curriculum and assessments. By understanding these options, you, the parent or guardian, will be able to better participate and contribute in making the determination of what state assessment is best for your student. The Every Student Succeeds Act, or ESSA, is the main education law for public schools in the U.S. ESSA makes provisions for keeping parents well informed so they can help make the best decision for their children. Parents play a huge role in determining student eligibility for participation in the alternate assessment, and they must be informed of these differences in assessments and that their child is being measured on an alternate academic achievement standards, which are less complex and in-depth of the skills than the regular academic standards. Parents also need to be aware of the possible consequences of participating in the alternate assessment and how that may affect their child achieving a regular high school diploma. Kentucky has state regulations that require admissions and release committees to discuss and document how students will participate in state assessment, and if it is determined the student will participate in the alternate assessment. They must document the student meets a specific set of criteria to be eligible to participate in the alternate assessment and the reasons for that decision. The federal and state regulations are important because they provide inclusion for all states in curriculum and assessment, hold schools accountable, and allow for individualized planning for student instruction and assessment. As mentioned in the regulations, the state-required assessment and accountability programs are inclusive of all students at specific grade levels. Participation in state assessments is determined annually on an individualized basis. Students can participate in the regular state assessment either with or without accommodations, or students, if found eligible by the Admissions and Release Committee, or ARC, may participate in the alternate assessment. A student's placement does not determine which assessment a student takes. Participation in the alternate assessment does not preclude a student with the most significant cognitive disabilities from attempting to complete the regular high school diploma requirements as stated in 334 CFR 300.160 D2. When an ARC meets to develop or annually review an individual education program or IEP for a student with a disability, the ARC will have to discuss state assessment participation. State assessments begin in grade level 3 in the state of Kentucky. An ARC should discuss the regular state assessment for a student first as they discuss state assessment options. Questions the ARC will ask the team will include, can the student participate in the regular state assessment without accommodations? Can the student participate in the regular state assessment with accommodations? If the student can participate in the regular state assessment with accommodations, what accommodations does the student need? The specific accommodations needed can be reviewed and documented by the ARC. If the student cannot participate in regular state assessment with or without accommodations, then the ARC will continue to document that decision and begin to review, discuss, and document completion of the Kentucky Alternate Assessment Participation Guidelines. The goal of reviewing each option is to determine the most appropriate way for the student to participate based on their individual needs. Questions as you as a member of the ARC should consider when determining whether your student can participate in the regular state assessment or not include: how do I know if my student could participate in the regular state assessment? What accommodations does my student require on assessments? How has my student performed on previous state assessments or classroom assessments? An ARC should discuss the possible participation in the regular state assessment for a student first, then review student information and decisions for considering the student for alternate assessment. If the ARC agrees that the student is unable to participate in the regular state assessment with accommodations and modifications, the ARC members will help provide you with data and information to answer these questions. Keep in mind, anticipated or past low achievement on the regular state assessment, other assessments, or poor classroom performance does not mean the student should be taking the alternate Kentucky summative assessment. We will discuss options for when an ARC member disagrees with the decision in later slides. So if the ARC determines your student is not able to complete the regular state assessment with or without accommodations, then the ARC will discuss the student's eligibility to participate in the alternate assessment called the Alternate Kentucky Summative Assessment, or AKSA. Features of the alternate assessment include a more simplified format and text for each student, reduced complexity in items being assessed, providing a more appropriate measurement method to determine what the student knows, and fewer academic standards being tested. More information about the specifics of the assessments will be shared in the Comparing the Regular State Assessment and Alternate Assessment module. As with all assessments, the alternate assessments are a snapshot of student performance based on grade level expectations, but they are just one data point to help understand a student's progress academically. The student's IEP goals, alternate assessment score, and a variety of other progress monitoring tools should be used throughout the school year to help the ARC plan for the most appropriate instructional program to ensure the student is provided with the most post-secondary opportunities. If the parent or guardian or any member of the ARC disagrees with the student's eligibility to participate in a specific assessment, the ARC must document this in the conference summary. There are several options for the resolution of a disagreement. The ARC may schedule an additional meeting to further discuss and address the issue, and once it has been further researched. The Director of Special Ed, or the DOS, may contact the parent or guardian or other member in order to clarify the issue. The DOS may provide the member or parent with a copy of the parent guide and meet to provide further explanation. And/or the ARC may review the training on guidelines for participation in the alternate assessment and schedule an additional meeting to review eligibility participation in the state assessments. If the ARC has exhausted all available options for consensus and still is not able to come to an agreement, the district makes the final determination and must provide the parent with prior written notice of the decision. Prior written notice should be documented on the conference summary and must include all of the following: description of the action proposed or refused by the district, an explanation of why the district proposes or refuses to take action, a description of each evaluation procedure, assessment, record, or report the district used as a basis for the proposed or refused action, a statement that the parents of the child with a disability have protection under the procedural safeguards, and if the notice is not an initial referral for evaluation, the means by which a copy of the procedural safeguards can be obtained. Sources for the parent to contact to obtain assistance in understanding Part B of the IDEA, a description of other options the ARC considered and the reasons why those options were rejected, and a description of other factors relevant to the district's proposal or refusal. Should the dispute continue after the district has provided the parent with prior written notice, the parent may dispute the decision via any of the dispute resolution options. These options include mediation, formal written complaints, and due process hearings. Information about each of these options can be found on KDE's website located at Dispute Resolutions Process page. This module was meant to describe the options available for students with disabilities to participate in state assessments, what the alternate testing is for students who are unable to participate in regular state assessments, and the federal and state regulations on inclusion for students in curriculum and assessments. Should you have any additional questions about state assessment participation options, please contact Lauren Thinneman in the Office of Special Education and Early Learning, Division of IDEA Monitoring and Results.